Hi, and welcome to the Desert Lady Diaries podcast, a weekly conversation with women who found their home in the Mojave Desert. I'm your host, Dawn Davis, and this is episode number 4. If you're a first-time listener, welcome, and if you're a returning listener, thanks so much for coming back. You can find us on the web at desertladydiaries.com, and you can call us with questions, comments, or compliments at area code 760-392-1293. And please remember to speak slowly and clearly. Your question might make it on the podcast. Today, I'm talking with Aydra Jenson, who moved to the desert about a year ago with her partner MV and their band Belle Starr, which can be seen playing regularly in the high desert and also in LA. Welcome back to Desert Lady Diaries. Our guest today is Aydra Jenson, a multifaceted artist whose journey in music, food, and event production has led her to developing a very unique brand. Along with her partner and bandmate MV, their band Belle Starr can be seen playing regularly. Aydra's current mission is funding for their debut album, Chapter 1 Crash, and Aydra enjoys the desert lifestyle for its supportive and artistic community, plus the vastness of the natural landscape she considers a canvas to create and explore within. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you.
You are welcome. So tell me, what was your very first encounter with the desert?
Well, Joshua Tree was simply sort of an unknown realm to me, I suppose, up until about 2007. I was living in LA. I had recently transplanted out of the Bay Area and was sort of getting my roots down into Panga Canyon and Silver Lake. Those are my two hot spots in Los Angeles.
I lived in Atwater for
love
a couple
Atwater.
years. Mm-hmm.
Fantastic areas, all of it, in the east side. And I did meet someone there that sort of acted as a mentor for me and opened the world up for me to start recording my music, kind of empowered me. He was a writer, and he said, you have to come out. We got to go out to Joshua Tree and take some pictures. And yeah, that was the beginning. That was the intro, and I definitely fell in love. And then later on, I was just started coming out on my own accord, and just, as a lot of people do from LA, just slowly became familiarized and started to slowly fall in love with this place.
And what was the moment of, I've got to move here?
That came later. Certainly would never have predicted that moment to come. But my cousin, who is in real estate, and she really took to the desert as well. She wanted to buy out here. So I said, listen, if you get a house out here, I said, I will come out here and live out here to help you to run it as a B&B, because that movement was a few years ago, obviously getting really hot. And she said, oh, yeah, well, all right, So it was definitely a pipe dream then. I guess the aha moment was just this last year. We were living in Eagle Rock, and the work that I had was sort of dying out. I mean, things were just changing, and LA was becoming less and less appealing. And I had the dream. I just didn't know how, to make it realized. But we had met an incredible fellow, our friend Neville, who lives here now. But we'd met him on a remote Greek island traveling. So
oh my goodness.
Completely random. And we were able to connect to him that he was buying a house out here and had a house sit that he needed to hand off to someone. As this incredible woman that was out here was sailing across oceans. So we were able to take the house. And that's kind of how it all came together, was the ability to sort of transition to something that was affordable, and we could start getting into the B&B world and, have a little bit of income. And it was actually a year ago yesterday.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you actually came about the same time I did, because I signed my lease for where I am now on July 29th.
Oh, well,
and then I took the entire month of August just bringing stuff out on weekends. And, I'd get here and Sunday afternoon would come and I'd be like, I don't want to go back to LA. And I was downtown, and I know exactly what you're talking about when you say LA was changing, because it changed down there too. I was down there for probably 3.5 years, and parking lots are now high rises, and it's very different than it was.
It's that story everyone's telling about the gentrification. I know that it has so many good aspects to it, but certainly and the way that it sort of is pushing out a lot of the artists and people that were, maybe kind of making it great, and, paving the way for people that can pay the dollar amounts.
The freight. So, yeah, exactly. So that was your decision on how to move here. So what was the process like? You just found the house sit, and then did you look for a place?
It was basically, on a wing and a prayer, and shoved everything into a storage unit that was about a third of the cost for 3 times the size of things you get in Los Angeles. So, right off the bat, we knew we were going to be in a better position. We had support, and started working for a woman that has very established Airbnbs. So that was an incredible blessing, and that put us in a position that we were able to sort of work up to finding our own place, and we signed a lease to rent a place in Landers back in December. So we've been in Landers, and we love it.
Yeah, you can really, the night sky is awesome out there.
There's all kinds of things in the night sky out there.
Yeah, true.
We love it.
So out there in Landers, do you feel a sense of isolation, and do you like that? Do you, make it part of your purpose of, I want to be isolated, or...
Yeah.
How does that work for you?
I think so. I think that there's isolation, but also that there in that isolation is like a real relief, like a feeling of vast sort of inspiration, that you can kind of handpick from, just because the landscape is alive, and so I feel very comforted by that. I feel the energies of the landscape and the Integratron and Landers Brew, so it doesn't feel too isolated anymore. However, in the beginning, and there are days, I think it just depends on my current mood, my emotional state.
Gotcha.
If I'm in a position of, oh my gosh, what am I doing? then I'm like, I am alone. Nobody else is here. And then you go out. I mean, all you have to do is just go down to Frontier or the Saloon, and you right off the bat see 5 people you know.
That you know, right. Exactly.
Once again.
I want to go back to the Integratron, because that's an amazing place.
Yes.
But you also do, I've seen a lot of your video shoots and things like that are out by Giant Rock. And what is it about that place that attracts you to keep going out there?
I think it's the story of George Van Tassel and his story. He used to have interplanetary meetups out there where 10,000 people were known to gather at once. It's incredible to me how convicted he was of his story. And because our brand is specific to the UFO culture, and because that is something I've always felt very attracted to and felt is part of my calling, my purpose here on the planet, is to bring awareness to that. So certainly, because it is part of the brand and it is part of my personal story, and I am incredibly attracted to the story of George Van Tassel.
Well, whenever I see that you've been out there, I've only been out there once, and I pulled up, and the rock is amazing. I got out and I walked around it, and then I walked around the back to the front, and there's this concrete pad.
Yes.
And I have to tell you, as soon as I stood on that pad, my entire body just, something happened. It just buzzed. And I was like, wow, now I see what's going on out here.
Yeah, in fact, the rock was called the Spirit Rock to the Native Americans. And it was so sacred, only the chief could go out there and really be with the rock and clear the path for others in the tribe to come spend time with the rock. Is considered, incredibly sacred. And there was actually, it was prophesized that the rock would crack. And it's an incredible story. They actually, there was some meditations right before it happened. It happened in 2003. So that was prophesized. And it was actually that if it split down the middle, that we were kind of doomed. But if it split off the side, then the divine energy would open. And sure enough, it split off the side. So
that's very interesting.
Yeah, I love that.
I love that. That's great.
Yeah.
So it sounds like when you moved here, you did have a little bit of community here already, people that you knew.
Yeah.
But how did you kind of make your way then into creating Belle Starr? Was that already in the works in LA, and then you brought it out here, or how did that all come together?
Actually, that kind of materialized here. It was more about we both had our own projects, a solo project, and Envy was in a band. And as those were kind of put on the back burner as we came to establish this new life, and the community aspect of it was pretty thin when we arrived. But it was an immediate embrace, just going out to the open mics. That was sort of the first thing we started doing, and that started establishing us as a duo. And we of course met Teddy Quinn right away, Jessica Von Rabbit, all the kind of the Heart crew, and they really were incredibly responsive and welcoming. And so Belle Starr, to get to that just quickly, was born. We were out in Glamis, which is a really neat area of sand dunes. We go out there and ride ATVs with my uncle, and he said, I've told you the story that your distant relative used to run around with Belle Starr. Belle Starr was a famous outlaw. She was a woman outlaw, probably the second most famous to Bonnie Parker. So when I heard about this, I thought, gosh, what a neat story, and what a cool name. And I started obsessing and reading about her, and then I just it just took. So that's where Belle Starr was born.
That's super cool.
Yeah.
Have there been any surprises or challenges that you've come up against since moving here? And what are they, and how have you overcome those?
Gosh, well, despite the obvious, okay, how do we make money out here and make it work? The cactuses are surprising, and you don't really understand the severity until you have a cholla in your foot. And then you realize, okay, this landscape is incredibly volatile, and beautiful. So the wildlife and that aspect, and as I love it. And so as much as I knew that was a part of it, I guess you're still surprised because you kind of learn about the native landscape. And then on the kind of community level, I think I was surprised just by how many like-minded people there were. Mm-hmm. That was sort of like a pleasant surprise.
Yeah. I am in awe every time I go out to any kind of artistic event, at the talent that's here, and the openness that's here, and the encouragement and nurturing. Very
receptive and very genuine, which was a hard thing to find sometimes in LA.
Right.
Everyone's running around.
Right. It's hard to find a minute's peace, and out here there's plenty of peace to be had.
It's more fractal in LA, and here I feel it's like more of a union.
Right. Exactly.
Integrated.
So how do you spend most of your time when you're not, working? And I guess it's getting this music thing and this, going.
Yes, it's incredible how much time it takes, and you're not getting paid for any of it. So it's a lot of sacrifice. But yeah, I would say I spend so much time right now on the computer. It's embarrassing, but I get a lot done. We just built the website and launched that. We are forming an official business plan because we want to operate as a business, as a brand, and in that sense, create revenue through different streams, and one of which is really something that I've done my whole life, but I'm cultivating more now, which is event building. And so not only just putting on our own shows and promoting it, but actually putting together events that have themes. And that's what we're kind of coming up into the fall. So we're looking towards producing an event with Dana Larson at the Astronomy Theater for the Arts. And we're very excited also about possibly a bigger event in November where we want to maybe theme it with the Van Tassel story a little bit and bundle it with excursions and have obviously food and accommodations, but have it be about our show and the theatrics of the show, so that we can,
which are amazing.
Thank you.
When I saw you guys at First World, and that was my first experience with Jessica Von Rabbit. I hadn't seen them perform either, so it was like a double punch.
Whoa!
I left like, whoa!
Where are
these
these awesome alien creatures? Where they come from?
But it was really energizing and inspiring all at the same time. So it's really great. So talk a little bit more. What's the event with Dana? That's the 22nd of September?
Yes, it's going to be an Equinox event, and it will follow our first event that I produced with the Landers Brew, which was Stargirl Fest for the summer solstice. I like to base my events around special times of the year. I think it's kind of fun to merge that with things that are sort of in the collective conscious. So certainly the Equinox is a great time of year out here because you have the weather at sort of a prime. And we're going to have astronomy. Astronomy is a big part of any event that happens there. So there will be several astronomers featured, as well as an opening act and food. And we'll have some artists and a couple of vendors featured. So we're really, really excited about that event. And I hope that is going to lead people to watch us as promoters as well. To putting on these events for the community.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I'll put the. I'm sure you'll have a link and a Facebook and all that stuff. We'll put that up there there, so people know to watch out for that and either come out for it or make room on their calendar.
Can't wait. Yeah, we're going to announce next week, so
that's great. And is the event in November, is that at the Retreat Center, Institute of Mental Physics?
We were looking at that, and I have I'm working with a coach to kind of help me to formulate some of these ideas, because as an artist you realize obviously all your ideas are not great ideas, she's great because she's pushed me. I worked in the food world and as a private chef in LA 10 years. I've done some work out here with that. However, my real true heart was really kind of leaving LA was partly to move away from that. I want to be able to incorporate food into the event because I think it's an integral part of any event. So a lot of that is looking at places that can cater to that. The Retreat Center obviously has a great kitchen. But we kind of are looking a little bit into Garth's Boulder Gardens now, because he is an outdoor venue, and we really want to make it about the event titled Starship, about being able to look into the night sky and make contact with the energies in the sky. And as my advisor was saying, make it about the brand Belle Starr, don't try to sell yourself on all these other areas. Really focus on what's in your heart and what you want to do in your heart. And my heart says, tell people about these sky people,
right? Exactly,
and get them into the story, into the things that's in my imagination that I want to reach out and touch people with, and educate people on and inspire people with.
Well, and I've heard it said that just because you're good at something doesn't mean that's what you should be doing with your life.
Yes, thank you.
So,
hallelujah.
There you go.
I couldn't agree more.
But do tell me, you've been doing a couple of brunches, and those are at Rimrock?
Rimrock Ranch, which is an incredible establishment up here. Gwen and Eric are great people and have supported us so much. And that we did a few pop-up series with them. And so Gwen is also someone that I really respect on a business level. She's done some really incredible events. So it's really a good person to have in your court. And she's been sort of helping us to kind of envision these larger events. It's been really great. Yeah. Nice. An incredible way to connect to the community as well.
So growing up, did you see yourself living in the desert?
Never. The wildest dreams. I thought it was a horrible place. I thought it was just, what's out here? I didn't get it. I was a mountain girl. I wanted to be near to the sea. I needed a body of water next to me. That growing up in Northern California, that's what you're surrounded with. Lots of weather, and that's what you're used to. I guess it came about in 2012 when I somehow, for maybe it was the Mayan calendar thing, or the galactic center just hit me, and I somehow was just drawn to Santa Fe and Taos, and I thought, I gotta go out there, I gotta see what this is like, and I gotta go to this, these alluring desert locations and think and see what I can find there, and think about the potential of possibly living somewhere like this. That's when it sort of shifted. And then when I came out here, like as mentioned, starting to see the community and the incredible things going on here, it flipped. And of course, as we've spent more and more time, you just start to feel all of the different elements and layers of the living landscape and how precious it is. So
you would say at this point that this is the place for you?
Yes. It is. I do still dream of Taos.
Well, that's funny you should say that, because all my life, I grew up in Jersey, but everywhere I ever lived on my own, I decorated the inside of my home as if I was in the desert. I had cactus things, I had Native American prints and all kinds of things like that. And then finally coming here, similar story. I ended up in a house-sitting situation, and coming here and just looking around, now what is inside my domicile is outside. I'm literally living it.
Yeah.
So something in me, I think, knew that this was a place for me. Exactly.
Yeah, I love it.
You're raising money for this debut album.
Yes.
Tell me how that whole process is going and happening.
Oh, it's terrifying. It's you definitely go through your all the different aspects of your mind, and you doubt yourself. You have to ask yourself, well, how am I worth that? and then of course, because a lot of and my family is fully supportive, but there's certain aspects of family and friends that are looking at you and saying, well, why do you think you deserve to make money doing art or music? That's kind of the impossible dream. And
you're not digging a ditch. You're not really doing quote unquote work.
Right. That's what they think. So it's very difficult to be in that position. You want to prove yourself. You have a lot to prove, and then you have to divide your time with your creative energies and then your business energies. But I've always been a business-minded person. I developed my brand on my own in LA, and I had agents, and I did make great money. I was very unhappy, but there was times where the money did create happiness, and it certainly lifted my brand and my music and my talent into another level. I'm a self-taught artist, and I'm not even a high school graduate. So this was all sort of came about of growing up in theater and wanting to be a writer, wanting to be a performer, and wanting this, but not really knowing how. So it was a dream that I started chasing after my years in the rave scene, and kind of starting to write music when I was about 18, and thinking all of a sudden, I'm going to do this. I don't care what it takes. I don't know how. And the food stuff was really kind of my way to heal, because I had a lot of healing to do. So it's a process of healing, and the business aspect of it is very similar. It's a way of healing the way you think, reprogramming how your mind works and doesn't work. So I've been very lucky that there are several women here that older women that are kind of empowered businesswomen that are guiding me right now, and they're my mentors, and they're giving me the encouragement and the power to do what I know I can do, which is raise the money that we need. And the idea is the event would be the way to return the investment in a timely manner. Because when it comes to money, you can crowdfund, which I've done successfully a couple times, but you get to a point where you just don't want to keep reaching out to the same people and saying, can you support me $25 and I'll throw you a t-shirt? It's sort of like, It gets to this point where you're like, I need to look at it like as though I'm a business and I'm asking for an investment.
Right. And there are many artists who just don't have that mindset. I feel I'd always wanted to be an actor. And I lived in Jersey, proximity to Manhattan, go over there and do it. But I think I was too scared or too afraid, didn't really have the support. It was like, you need to go out and find a job that'll get your retirement and all that stuff. And then finally, when I moved away from that, I decided, I'm going to do this. But when I moved to LA, there were moments of, gosh, I wish I'd come here sooner. I wish I'd come here a long time ago. And then I say, Dawn, if you had been here at 18, 19 years old, you wouldn't have known what to do, where to even start. So just stop. And I just feel like the education process between then and getting to LA in a financial industry as a project manager, it really did help me to look at my craft as a business. And it's very important. They don't teach you that in acting class or music class.
Or even in high school.
Right, exactly.
In any way, shape, or form. And so I did like one course at the college, and I remember learning to write a business plan, and, aside from my dance and trapeze classes that I was sort of, but, I wanted it from a young age. I wanted to be an entrepreneur and to do my own thing. And there was definitely moments of like, entrepreneur / gypsy / hippie / artist, but and those moments made me stronger, and they gave me the encouragement and the time to refine my art and to write. And I've been very prolific in my songwriting, so
I find myself sometimes hearing the songs that I've heard you play out in my head.
Best compliment ever.
So it's striking me anyway.
Thank you. I've definitely been told I have like pop sensibilities in the writing. That's of course an incredible compliment, because I grew up with my favorite pop and rock and the sort of EDM, so that as much as certain commercial music is like it is horrifying, a lot of it I've always kind of been into commercial pop, and that's sort of the sound that I hear in my head.
No, I really enjoy your stuff, so
thank you very much.
Where is that inspiration coming from? You just mentioned like the EDM, and any artist in particular, or?
Well, I'd say Belle Starr has definitely got a little more of our rock roots in there. So that was Tori Amos all the way. I was raised on like Tool, Tori Amos. Incubus. I mean,
Oh, wow. Yeah.
even like, very
Great.
influenced by Linkin Park. So, losing Chester was a really,
Talk to me
really
about
hard,
that a
hard
little
for
bit.
me.
Yeah, that's been really hard for you.
I am having a hard time just processing that they would leave so quickly within the same time of each other. Chris and Chester. I think that there's something else going on, and so I have to process that on my own.
Okay.
But I think that beyond sort of the whole, they're depressed and they've been living with this and success is too much. I think that there is a bigger plan at work, and maybe a little bit to do with just transitioning in the time we're in the world.
Right.
It's incredibly difficult, for us to process, and we don't have all the answers.
No.
But I truly have to believe that this was something that they just was so much bigger than them.
Understood.
Yeah. So that's what I try to stay with and know that the work was done. The work was completed.
Right.
So.
Exactly. I've done what I was sent here to do or came here to do, and now it's somebody else's turn to pick up where I left off.
Exactly.
Essentially.
And I think that our job as artists is to really continue from where they left off, and to do it in more stride.
So speaking of other art and continuing on, is there anything that you are listening to, reading, watching right now that you want to tell our listeners about that's really got you jazzed?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Good.
It's like, who doesn't have those ones? So everyone likes to talk about what the media that inspires them. I think. Let's see. Reading. I am reading a Jesse James' Secret, which is a book written by an actual life account of someone who delved into Jesse James's past and sort of uncovered a lot of secrets and mysteries that have been, uncharted and untalked about in conventional history. Fascinating stuff, sort of some of the beginning of, the conspiracy theories of our Western times. And there's supposedly some hidden treasure, and he maybe was kind of affiliated with some of the original CIA developments. And I think it's really interesting when you think about those old outlaws, these famous outlaws. They were sort of the original Wild West, what made the West wild and what made it so famous, and that their stories are incredible. His story is just really one of a kind. So that is a read that I'm highly into, and I am listening to Lana Del Rey's new album. It is an incredible piece of work. I really respect her. Been following her career, and I think she is definitely one of, if not the most interesting and authentic sort of mainstream artists of our time.
Just her melodies and her lyrics are really.
I absolutely love her style, and she stays true to her style. In the second part of the album, I feel is quite political. So it's worth listening and really honing those melodies and lyrics, and it's got a lot of the kind of throwback to the doo-wop 50s era, but kind of bringing it into modern. And she does a duet with Stevie Nicks that is just unbelievable.
Wow.
Yeah, so
that sounds cool.
That's
I'm going to look for that.
Yeah. It's called Lust for Life.
Oh, nice. Thank you. I'll put that in the show notes too, so if anybody's interested, they can find that and the Jesse James book.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's time for Emily's Jar.
Great.
My niece's questions, so
This is exciting.
dive in and pick one.
How old is Emily?
Emily is 17.
Oh, that is an age to be a good age.
Right. And a good
Exciting
age to be
age.
asking some questions.
Of course I would get this.
Oh.
What are some strategies to use to do well in school?
Oh. And why do you say, of course I get that one?
Oh, at school, it was just never my bag. It's just, and that's funny. I wish that I had someone maybe my age when I was that age to ask this question to, because I sure could have used that advice. But I honestly believe like everything is focus. Everything is, what do you want to get out of it, and how are you going to use your presence and your own internal consciousness and awareness to get what you want out of it. And I think when you're in a classroom setting, you're going to decide what you want to pay attention to, and when you want to pay attention to something and something excites you, then just like have that laser point focus on it and become incredibly present with it. And of course, to be present, I've always practiced meditation. And, you hear the word thrown around so much, but I would say, it's probably one of the most incredibly useful and completely free and accessible tools that we have, humankind has. And I started meditating at a young age, and I don't know if it's a strategy, but it's something that I would say would give you an edge in any kind of education.
Well, I think the key word there probably was focus. And not only with what you hear in a classroom setting that kind of trips your trigger, because those are those things that your subconscious is tuning into. And those are the things to pay attention as you move forward in life when it comes to finding what your passion is or what you want to do with your life. It's those things
that grab you.
Exactly. And paying attention to that stuff. And in order to pay attention to it, you need to be focused and in that moment.
Present.
So, and meditation definitely helps with that. So
it does.
Well, thank you so much.
Thank you. This has been awesome.
Do you have some websites or anything that you want to shout out to the listeners that I will put in the show notes? But
great, I would love to, of course, plug our website. We just launched it, and that was an awesome journey. It is just bellstarr.com, BELLSTARR.com, and so that has the tease to this video that we will be releasing with the single in the next week. We're going to have a star party on the 13th for the Perseids meteor shower, which we will debut the video at and the single and do the show in its entirety. And and I also have my own website, AydraJenson.com, where you can see some of my more personalized work.
Awesome. Great. And secret surprise, you left us with a track to insert into the podcast.
I did.
Okay.
I can't believe it. It's good timing. We ended up meeting somebody out here, Pat Kearns. He recently relocated with his incredible wife, Susan, from Portland, Oregon, and he is an amazing producer, mix master. He's engineered quite a bit of incredible records in his time, so that was really a blessing to connect to him, and he agreed to mix and master our EP. We've done all the recording, the initial work, the footwork, so we're very blessed, and this is what I've handed you is a final mix, so you guys get to hear it first.
That's fantastic. Thank you very much for being here. I appreciate it.
We appreciate you.
Thanks so much for listening to the Desert Lady Diaries podcast. There are so many ways to spend your time, so thanks for spending it with us here. I hope you got some insight and inspiration, and if you did, I hope you'll share that with me and the other listeners on the Desert Lady Diaries Facebook page. If there was something you want to follow up on, I'm hoping I captured it in the show notes. You can find those links when you download the podcast, or if you go to the website, desertladydiaries.com, and look at the blog page, some of those links should be there. Next week, I'm talking to Cooper Gillespie, a musician, actor, and writer who shares how she made the transition from LA to the desert and from playing the flute to playing the electric bass. And now, the moment you've all been waiting for. Here's Belle Starr.
I came down to see what I could have might be, and the lights they overtook me like a siren calling from the sea. All my life been told, girl, you must be careful, not so bold, cause it's a very strange world, but they don't know that I could not be cruel. The night, lightning and the stars, so bright, and I don't know why, but in the moment it felt so right. coming at our backs. Lord knows I've tried. Praise them all, tell a perfect lie. But as the legend lives and dies, the mystery's still calling from my mind.